Hi boys and girls, how are you all? I miss you guys. I hope that you're doing well. I am very proud of how hard you guys are working from home. You're reading, you're doing the materials we have for you in Schoology. Awesome job guys, keep up that great work working on those materials from home. So for today's activity, we are going to be making fraction paper plates. So before the break at school, we made those fraction strips, which were different colored fraction strips. Each strip had a different fraction that it was representing. So today we're going to be making fraction plates, which are a circular form of those fraction strips that we did. So at home, the materials you're going to need are some paper plates. You're going to need 6 paper plates, colored markers, and a pair of scissors. So if you want to pause the video so you can gather those supplies. If you do not have paper plates or markers or scissors or anything like that, just use what you have. You could even just draw the circles on a piece of paper. It's definitely up to you and whatever resources that you have, okay? So, to start, we always start with our whole. So we had our fraction strip that was the whole piece. Or like when we have a number line, the fraction number line represents our one whole. So today, our whole paper plate is representing our one whole. So what I'm going to do is write 1 whole. 1 whole. That's it. That's all you have to do. If you would like to color code your paper plates, you totally could. You could give each fraction a color, like how our strips were color coded. So I'm just going to put a little bit of blue on our 1 whole. Just like that. If you have the time to color it in better, go right ahead. Alright, our next fraction that we are going to be doing is 1/2. So if our plate represents our whole, we have to cut it in half, which means we're drawing one line straight down the middle. So my whole is cut in half. I have 1 and 2 pieces. I'm going to label each side as 1/2. 1/2 here and 1/2 here. And now I am going to color it in. I'll do orange. Again, you can color it in better than I am. It's just to visualize that. And I have my 1/2. The next fraction that we're going to be doing is thirds. So, if you remember, thirds can be kind of tricky, but it makes, you make them kind of like a peace sign. So you're going to start by drawing a line straight from the top like you were doing for the halves, except stop in the middle. So I did a line halfway down from the top. And now I want to make that peace sign. So 1 going off to the left and 1 going off to the right. So now I have my 1, 2, 3 equal pieces, and I can label them each as 1/3. And I'm going to color these in with purple. Remember when we're doing fractions that we want our pieces to be as equal as possible. It is probably impossible to make them perfect when we're doing it by hand, but definitely try your hardest to try to make them as equal as possible because it'll help us compare the fractions at a later time. So here are my thirds. Right. Our next paper plate, we are going to cut into fourths. So fourths are pretty easy. You want to do a line straight down the middle like we did for halves. And then do the same thing going the other way. Now I have 4 equal pieces. And I'm going to label each as 1/4. All right, I want you to think about, what is that bottom number called? What would the 4 be called in this case? All right, if you have it in your head, awesome job. That bottom number is the denominator. And the denominator shows us how many equal pieces my whole is cut up into. So remember, the whole plate represents our whole, and it's cut into 4 pieces. So that denominator is telling us there are 4 equal pieces. So if you needed that refresher on the denominator, it'll always tell you how many equal pieces there should be. Coloring this one in with yellow. I have my 4ths. All right, we're almost there. Our next plate, we are going to cut into 6. So how we want to do 6 is cut it straight down the middle, just like in half. And now, just like how we did on 4ths, we're gonna tilt this line and make it more diagonal. So starting up about there, I'm gonna draw my lines to kind of help. And again, if you wanna use a pencil to draw on your lines beforehand to make sure that they're even, awesome. I'm just doing it like this to save time, but you could definitely make a rough draft with a pencil. So I have this cut in half, and I'm drawing a diagonal line that's going to hit through the middle, and I'm doing that one more time going the other way. And then I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. I'm going to label each as 1/6. And I'll color that in with green. All right, there's my 1/6 all done. And our last paper plate is going to be 8s. All right, so 8s, we want to make it look just like 4ths to start out. So I'm drawing that line straight down the middle, doing the same thing the opposite way. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to be drawing 2 diagonal lines. So I'm cutting each of these sections in half again. Make sure that your lines always meet at the middle. That'll help you stay straight. All right, so I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. I'm going to label them each as 1/8. And I'll color this one in with red. All right, and that is it for our fraction plates for now. If you wanted to do some more, if you wanted to do 5ths or 7ths or 9ths or 10ths even, if you have the resources and the time, you totally can. It's up to you. This amount will definitely help you get the gist of it. All right, so what I would do now with these paper plates are compare the fractions that we have and see if we can find any equivalent fractions. So, if I were to hold up these 2 plates and ask you, what would the equivalent fraction be between these 2? Go ahead and think about that for a minute. I know you can't respond to me, but I know you're all thinking of the answer in your head. So I know that 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2, because 2/4 would be the same amount of the plate. It would cover the same amount as 1/2. So those are equivalent. So maybe you want to look through these plates, maybe see how thirds and sixths relate, maybe look for some equivalent fractions, and you can play with all of those different plates that we have. Another option that you have is to actually cut the pieces out. So if you wanted to cut the fourths out, and then you could lay them on top, so you might have this one piece. You can lay it on top of the different plates and see what it covers and how those are equivalent. So it's up to you. If you just want to leave them like this so you can help visualize it, or cut them out and play around with them, you totally can. There is a worksheet on Schoology called Equivalent Fractions that this will probably help you out a lot with. That is in Schoology. Equivalent Fractions is the title of it. And you can use these have these in front of you while you're working on that. That would definitely help you out. Another fun activity that you could do at home to help you practice fractions would be measuring cups. So I don't know if you have time to bake this weekend or over spring break, or you could even just play with your measuring cups with water, sand, flour, whatever you have available at your house, to just see how they relate. So on here, I think these come apart. So I have my one whole, and I can take my different measuring cups, like this next one is 1/2, and I can maybe, if I'm scooping water, I would know that if this is 1/2, I should be able to fit 2 scoops of something in my 1/2 cup to fill my one whole. So you can play around with those a little bit to help you see a real world example. We definitely use fractions in our everyday lives as adults, especially in the kitchen. So they definitely are something that you're gonna want to remember and learn for your future. All right, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed our time looking at fractions. Remember that worksheet on Schoology, Equivalent Fractions. It would be really great practice for you to work on some of those fractions and use the things that we made today. If you want to play around in the kitchen, make sure you ask Mom and Dad first, but that's definitely a great way to learn as well. So next week is spring break. Probably not traveling much anymore, but I hope that you guys enjoy your break. You probably won't hear from Mrs. Demand and I much until after spring break, but know that we definitely miss you guys, and we are very proud of how hard you're working, so keep that up. Keep reading, work on IXL, W, X, and Y. If you have not finished those yet, I definitely challenge you to finish those over spring break, okay? Make sure you finish those before you go on to Khan Academy, because Khan Academy is more like a game, all right? It's kind of like your reward to finishing IXL. All right, boys and girls, I miss you guys. Have a great spring break, and I will talk to you after the break. Thanks.